Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Hello again.
Hello again. You know this guy here, that's Andreas. He's going to talk about Quarkus today, and you have no idea who I am. Expect the colleagues from Arkansas. I'm Stefan. I'm replacing Jonas or Timo today because they are not here. They have to do better stuff. No. Andreas, what are we going to do today? Tell us.
Yeah, well, last time we started integrating the database to provide favorite lists and other custom lists for the iOS app. And we want to continue with that. Last time we only started with retrieving the movies in your list. Now we also want to save movies for your list. And I think we're just gonna jump right into it.
Okay, just for everyone else, this is what I understand it. From now on, I'm not going to understand anything. I'm not a software developer. I hope that's okay. If you have any questions, please just ask them in the chat. I'm going to redirect them to Andreas.
Thanks, Stefan. So let's jump right back into it. So to recap what we did last time, we added a movie list repository, which is we use Panache to access the database. And for this we created the entity. We have a very simple entity. We have an ID. But mainly what is interesting for us is we have a user ID, we combine it with a list name and a movie ID. So the interesting part here is for a user, for a list with a given name, we save the movie as one entry. And so we can have multiple entries. So a user can have his list like favorites, where there are multiple movies in there. Maybe favorites is like a fixed list that the app always provides. Because it's like a fixed feature. You want to have favorites, maybe with a star or so, like bookmark them. But also you could have like other lists that the user can configure themselves. So we kept this dynamic here. We only save the list name, and we are free what we save in here. So what we did, Quarkus is started up, so I can now maybe here on the right, we have the connection to the database with IntelliJ, and we can have a look into the database, and there's nothing in there yet. So let's add something. And let me check a movie. Let's just search movies. We again search the Marvel movies. And the user ID, we don't have an authentication mechanism yet. We will add that later. So for now, we provide the username. So just gonna write this here.
Gotcha.
Maybe add another one for demonstration's sake. Here, same list. And save it. And now when we go here and get the movie lists, then we have the list name is favorites. We have the movies. And in here we have Captain Marvel with all the details, and we have the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter. Yes. So that's the basic stuff that we have right now. Now we also want to be able to extend this list without having to edit the database manually, of course.
Of course.
So what we do is something like this. Again, as I said, at the moment we don't have an authentication mechanism yet. So we provide, temporarily, we provide a user ID or name just as a query parameter. So this will in the future be gone. And now we want to make a post call to this lists, and the name of the list here is favorites. This could also be like my super list or something.
Super list. What is a super list?
And it's my awesome super duper list. So it's just, oops, one too much. It's just my list name here, and we want to post a movie to that list. So add a movie to that list.
Okay, understood.
And the only thing that we need to know which movie to add is the ID. And we will provide this as a body, as a JSON body, to be precise. Stefan, I think you are too silent.
I have no idea what you're doing. You're talking about bodies, and for me, a body is laying on the ground and doesn't move anymore. So
let's not go further that route.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's first create the endpoint.
Oh, Moritz is asking me to speak up. Okay, this is where
that's what I meant.
Yeah, gotcha. Hey, Moritz. Hey, everybody.
So we're gonna add a new method here. Let's call it add movie to list. We have the same path as for the get. This time we are not producing JSON, but we are consuming JSON. We again have the path parameter, the list name, and we have the query parameter user. And also we want the body of the request that we just had, but we don't have a DTO for it yet.
A what?
A data transfer object.
Oh, okay.
This is a simple object that just contains data and no functionality.
Gotcha.
So it's just a data transfer object.
A DTO.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the movie ID, DTO. Pretty speaking. Again, as always, for this stuff, we make a data class. This has one field, and it's the ID. It's an int. We are happy. So to get this as a body, we are just doing this. So basically, the one parameter that does not have an annotation here is the body. I mean, this one, we say it's a query parameter. This one is a path parameter. So if there's no, Quarkus does not know where to get it from, then it's probably the body.
Okay.
Okay, so now we want to get rid of this. For now, we will just not return anything. And we will add movie list. List name, the user, and the movie ID. Okay, let's create this method.
So the chat is complaining about me being too quiet. That's on purpose. No, it's not, but
I think maybe you turned down your mic too
yeah, I
much.
did that because it seemed to be too loud, but apparently it hasn't been. Is it better now, Moritz? Tell us.
Okay. Now we want to save this. Our chat is
Yeah, thank you.
complaining a bit today.
Yeah. It's too lame for them. What does it mean, Moritz? What do you need? Do you need more action?
We want to pass in the user ID, the list name, and the movie ID. Yes. Explosions.
Okay. Can you do that, Andreas? Can you?
Yeah, let me try. I will try.
Thank
you. We will see some explosions maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So this I don't like this name save movie list, but because we don't save a list, we just add a movie to the list.
Okay.
So let's rename it. Yeah, and what is this doing? This is just calling persist and inserting this movie list entity. So let's find out what happens.
find out together.
Yeah. Maybe some of you. Yeah, I'm counting on the 500s for explosions. Yeah. So we have, as I showed earlier, we want to add to the favorites list. For Andreas, we want to add this movie. And let's try, and we get a bad request. Why is that? Quarkus does not even show a log. Let's do one thing. We can increase the log level of Quarkus to get more details out of it.
The log level. What is the log level?
It's the level of detail that you want for your logs. So you can define your logs with different level of detail. This helps, for example, now that we got an error of 400, which means the user did a bad request normally. So when the user does a bad request, you don't want to spam it in your log, because your log is for analyzing what's going wrong and what happened. And just because a user is sending wrong data, you don't want to get your log spammed. But now I'm wondering, I don't expect it to be wrong. Gotcha. So let's check what's going on. So I increase the log level to debug, so I get much more logs. So now you see Quarkus is spamming logs like crazy.
Okay, so you did something wrong, right?
No, the normal logs is Quarkus is now telling about everything. It's telling me here how it's loading the entities for the database and so on. Some internal setup stuff that you usually never care about.
Gotcha.
So we have a mismatched input. So the exception is from Jackson. Jackson is our data parser. So we have something wrong with our data. And it says it tried to deserialize the movie ID DTO, and it couldn't. And I think this is because we missed something. Yeah, probably. Let me have a look. Okay, so we have the Quarkus Kotlin module, and we also have the Kotlin standard library. But in order to for Jackson to really use Kotlin, we need to add another dependency. Unfortunately, Quarkus does not add this automatically. We have to do it manually. So what this does is it basically enables the Kotlin features for Jackson.
Okay, understood.
And we need this because we have here a data class, and it should use the constructor to create this object. And if we don't add this module, it doesn't know about how Kotlin is creating classes.
Okay.
So that should be a pretty easy fix. Let's hope it works. I mean, Moritz, sorry, it was no error 500 yet, but at least something. We saw some red in the console. So.
Oh, that's right. At least.
Another one. Woo! Now we have the 500. Strike.
Yes.
So what's the error saying? It's a transaction required exception. So this is actually because we are changing something in the database, but we did not do it in a transaction. Whenever you change something in the database, you need to wrap it in a transaction.
Okay.
So this is that when you do multiple changes and so on, these changes that belong together are either done as a whole or not at all. Maybe there's a conflict because you want to enter the same ID twice.
Yeah.
Then you could not add it. But then you don't want, if you do 5 inserts and 1 fails, you probably don't want to have half the data in the database and you have a messed up state. That's why you always want to have a transaction around it, and actually here Hibernate enforces you to do this. And Panache is only using Hibernate under the hood. So we can just add this. Transactional, I think. Transactional. Is this the name? Let me check this. 1 second. Yeah, transactional. So let's try again. What this does is, again, Quarkus is awesome. It wraps a transaction begin around this whole method, and when the method ends, it tries to commit the transaction, and yeah, and if something fails, it will roll back the transaction. So we got back a 204, no content, so the call was successful. So let's have a look in the database. And we see another entry.
Woo!
Awesome ID.
I'm so proud now, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we do the get movie list favorites, we can see we have the Captain Marvel, Marvel One Shot, and the Lego Marvel, which is the ID we just added. Awesome. We can now also check what happens. What happens when we add. Okay. Let's do Stefan. You can also have a movie.
Yes, please.
So worked again. Awesome. If we do this again, we still have 3 entries. Nothing has changed for Andreas. But if we do Stefan, then you get 1 movie. The favorites, the Marvel, Lego Marvel. Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Cool. Now we want to probably also be able to remove a list, an entry from the list.
Yeah.
So let's also do that. So for this, we will create a delete call. And we don't need a body for this because we are going to add something like, and then we add the ID here. Which one was that I added? So basically what this URL now says, it's we have the movies already here, so maybe not. Yeah, let's do it like that. So we have the lists. We have the list with name favorites, and we want to access or do something with the resource that has this ID, which is basically the movie ID, and we want to remove that again. We need nobody. And then, so at the moment this should 404 not found because we don't have a delete for this. And we can go here again, use this. Now we can add here another path parameter, the movie ID. We need no consumes, delete movie from list. List name user. Movie ID. No, movie IDs are ins. Right. Okay. And not add it. Delete movie from list. So again, repository. Oh, yeah, of course. I tried to get the code completion for the method that does not exist yet. Okay, so now we should have a like delete. There's a delete where we can delete an entity, but we need to. So if we would do this, then it would check for the ID in here. But we don't have that ID now. We only have user ID, list name, and movie ID. So we will need to write the query. And user ID, list name, and movie ID. So it's basically the same as we did for the get. And now we can add this list name and movie ID. Again, I guess I forgot the transactioner. Okay, let's see. Huh.
No.
No.
What does that mean?
It worked.
Oh, okay.
I didn't expect it to see a 204.
Expect it to work.
Yeah. So if we get now your favorite lists, it's empty, and if we get mine, it's still there.
Okay.
And it's still 3 movies. Yes. I'm getting a bit tired of counting then, so I think I will add the count here. Maybe later. So we can now remove one. And now the interesting part is what happens if we, easy, cool. So if we do it again, if we delete again,
yeah,
it also says it's okay, because it's gone. It's idempotent, so you can call it multiple times. That's something very useful because maybe the mobile client, you click on delete, but it has like a bad connection.
Yeah.
So it could happen that the delete call makes it to your server, but the response does not make it back to the client, because that connection, then the connection drops, and then the client would retry the operation.
Yeah.
And on your server, you receive the call, so you deleted the entry. And next time the next delete call comes, you should not throw an exception like, oh, it's not there.
Yeah.
So it's good that it should work the same. I mean, you wanted the thing to be gone, and it's gone, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important for the delete call, for example, that it's not a problem if you do it twice.
Yeah, gotcha. So this happened automatically?
Well, it's a bit of luck because we did it this way.
Oh, okay. So you did it on purpose, but
well,
you didn't know that you did it on purpose.
The thing is, what we told Panache here is, please just delete everything that matches this query. So, and this query is very specific, so it will only match to a single thing. Where the user ID is the given user ID, the list name, and so on. And if it cannot delete this, or basically it will just return the number of deleted entries.
Oh, okay.
So what we could do, it's not really helpful to return if it's succeeded or not, but for the fun, we could log it. Okay, so now we have a Java util logger. Oh no, I wanted a Java util logger, not a JBoss logger.
We do have a question in the chat from Moritz.
Receive 204 for every call and add or delete. So the 204 just means you have no content in the body of the response. If there is a body, then you get usually a 200 if it succeeds. So for delete, I think it's pretty normal to get just no response body, because yeah, what should I give you back? Maybe the updated list, if you, I could give you back maybe. But yeah, depends on the client if he wants that. Maybe if Jonas can tell after I delete something, do you really need the whole list again? I don't think so. Probably you can just delete it on client side. And for adding to the list, it also depends. You could return the whole list, the whole new list with the added entry. Or in this case, nobody asked me to do it.
Yeah.
So I won't return it. I mean, maybe the client doesn't even need it. So if he doesn't need it, why should I send him a bunch of data?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Over the connection. If they need it, we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, then it's also fine.
Okay. So the only one who could answer that would be Jonas or Timo.
Not
right?
a response, and it has been added, deleted successfully. Yeah, you could also request a list again. Moritz, I don't get your question. Maybe you need to rephrase a bit. For here, we wanted to log. So yeah, let's be a bit excessive. Okay.
So there's another suggestion from Squoo.
Yeah. You can tell it was successful because of the 200 response. Yeah, if it's not successful, you should not see a 200. Yeah, so yeah, like Squoo said.
Squoo said.
If you get a 2 something status code, then it was successful. If you have an API that gives you 200s and still throws an error, then it's just a crappy API. That's why HTTP has status codes. I mean, you can extend bodies and provide like more detailed status codes, because HTTP just has these at maximum 999, and they have different defined values what they mean.
Yeah.
So 200 means it worked fine and you get some response. 204 means it worked fine but you don't get a body. So if you want more detailed explanations for the client, especially if something went wrong, then you can add more status codes, like an internal ID, like 5000 something, or maybe even a speaking qualifier or something, speaking key. The client can then use and maybe display an error message, a localized error message or so. Okay.
Okay, Moritz is happy. Great.
That's the best.
That's all we hope for.
So one thing here about the logging, I'm using this syntax, so you could also use this. But so I have now info level logging activated. If I can find logging. So that's all about logging here. Maybe, yeah, here's the levels. So from top down. So if you have info activated, then info, warn, error, fatal, and off. Off is probably not something you will use, but all the above ones will be printed. But none of debug, trace, or all. These levels won't then be printed. So if I would, maybe I log pretty much with info, or I can log with like debug here, because this is something, yeah, fine, it's called in Java util. If you log this with fine, because this is something you usually don't want in your production system seeing. This is something you want to see when you're developing or so.
Yeah.
But it's nothing you need during normal operations. If something goes horribly wrong and you need to debug your production system, then you can activate find level and see what's happening. But usually you don't want to see this.
Okay, gotcha.
So now I wouldn't see this log message. I mean, we can try. What was it? Delete? Yes. Okay, we still have the extensive log is active. Then we actually will see it. Delete. There's so much you can't even see it. So let's disable the find logging for Quarkus, or the debug logging for Quarkus. And now we also don't see our log message, but we can show our log message. So usually you don't want all the logging from Quarkus, but you want more logging from your application maybe. So you can use this. So for Quarkus, we specify that the log level is info. But for this package, we want debugging. So for example, if I want to debug my database stuff, the Hibernate stuff, then I can activate it with debugging here, or I can just use my package. Movie time. And everything under this package will now be extensively logged.
Okay.
And if we trigger, it's not started yet. Go Quarkus. Yeah, and now we see here the fine movie list repository. This is the class that was logged, and here we see the going to blah blah blah. Okay.
So we have another question from Sku. Does Quarkus also support YAML? Okay.
YAML.
Why YAML?
YAML.
For the application properties like Spring Boot does.
Quarkus configuration. I've never used it, but it does. Yeah, so you can do it like this. Yeah, I have no idea about the specific. Yeah, you can also do this stuff here. It looks like using other properties, because that's very powerful to be able to reference other properties in the same configuration. Because this allows you to extract variables, and when you need stuff multiple times in different places, then you can reuse it.
Okay. You're welcome. It's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we have this log now, but what I wanted to explain, why do I use this one here? This is because this string here, in this case, this string here will always be generated. So this might be a much more complex operation as it is right now. At the moment, it's just templating a string with 3 variables. But already this is like creating a string with 3 variables that you have to replace in that string and so on. So this is a bit of work that's in here, creating this message. And if you have, for example, info logging active, then you will just throw it away. So you do it, you do all the work creating this string, and then you throw it away.
Yeah.
So it's just wasting your resources.
Yeah.
And you can get around this if you use this. This is a short form, again, in Kotlin for passing the parameter, which is a lambda. So this is just a function that we pass in. And now we have a look here. We pass in a message supplier. So this is a function that is called when it wants to actually log something. And here we see now only if it's loggable, this level, then it will only call this function.
Okay.
So when this message is not logged at all, then this method will never be called, or this function here. and this whole string will not be generated. So as I said, this is not a lot of work that's done here. It's generating the string, but still a waste. But if you do, maybe you print out a whole list, or you print out a complete big a big object or something like that, then it would be real work, and you don't want to do this, generate all this output and then just throw it away before you print it. So with this, you can get around this.
Okay.
So you should always use this lambda notation here. So then successfully deleted.
Okay, Jonas has some addition to that. Swift has auto closure for that. What does that mean?
You can put in a string, we'll convert it to a closure. Yeah. I mean, you pass it in this braces here, in the curly braces here, and I mean, you have full function now, so you can do all the magic that you want. You could get the whole movie list. Full list. What are you complaining about? Movie IDs for yeah. We get a full list, and we could print it here. So this would now be really complex, because we even make a database call just for logging. I mean, for debugging, this could be interesting to see the full list before it.
Yeah.
And afterwards. Let's just do it for the fun.
For the fun.
So now we have a really expensive logging here. And we want, no, postman. So let's do it again. Okay. So, so we are going to delete movie ID. This movie ID from the favorites for user Stefan, but there are none at the moment, and afterwards there are also none.
Yeah.
So, but maybe we add one again. And then we delete again. So going to delete this movie ID from the favorites for user Stefan. This is the current list of movies that you have. And we deleted one entry from this list. And now you have none.
None, yeah.
So this would be...
That I got.
This would be an interesting logging for debugging. Could be. I mean, this stuff is from the library, it will work probably, but so you won't need this. But if you now disable this log level, if you go back to info level, and we do this again, the whole procedure, then we see no logging, and it will not have executed the whole get list thing. Where is it? Yeah. So this was not executed now. Yeah, so much about that. But I'm gonna remove this again because nobody needs it.
Because why?
Nobody
needs it. Okay.
Yeah, it's just for the interested people out there.
That's great.
Yeah. So what we can do now is have a look at the corner case that we, I think, never thought about before.
Which one?
If I add this movie here, and then I do it again?
Oh, okay.
For debugging breakpoints. If you can, you must use a debugger for debugging. It's just so much more efficient. I mean, I can add the breakpoint here, and I didn't start it in debug mode. And let's start it again. I mean, with Quarkus, it's so easy. It just works. But also, if it's not so easy, you should go the extra mile to get the debugger. Now you're here, you see user ID is Stefan listener. It's just so easy. I mean, you can also run some queries in here. For example, we could maybe we could do this list name. So we even executed a database query here in the debugger now, and we can see what's in the database. So this is the full-blown power you have. I also use it sometimes for writing code, for new code, because if I don't know how the data structure looks like, how the data looks like, and so on, then I can even in here I can try look what is there and so on. Then I can experiment, and then I can paste it in here later. So that's so much more helpful. But of course, you sometimes need logging.
Next level is that. Wow, okay.
You sometimes you need logging, for example, when you have to deploy it on a remote, on a server and so on in your cluster. Then you need logging on the one hand, because you don't want to be attached to it with the debugger the whole time. It will run the whole day, and you just need to logging, and you need to record the logging that you later can query the logging and also track it for operations reasons. But also it's usually not easy to get into your cluster and connect to a container and debug it from there. I think there's even a way to debug a running container with Quarkus. I've never done it because usually I develop my stuff in a way that I can run it locally the same way as it runs in the cluster.
Okay.
And that is very helpful, because then you can just run it with the debugger and see what happens. Just connect to the same instances of your maybe third-party systems, and then you see what's coming from them, and you can easily debug it and fix your issues. Yeah.
Yeah. You lost me at, okay, listen.
Yeah, new series, Stefan learns coding.
Yeah, we might think about that. But not today, and even if I couldn't follow this monologue from Andreas for the next months or so. But thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, Moritz discovered the issue that I wanted to provoke. So if we have a look at the database, I inserted your favorite twice. So for the favorites list for Stefan, we now have twice the movie ID. So that's a duplicate. We don't want that. So there's two things we can do. One thing is we can add a constraint to the database. This will make that the database just prevents this from happening. This will not so much help us to provide a nice user experience or API, but it will make sure it never makes it to the database. The database will just reject it. If we would try to add this and we have a constraint that forbids it, then it will not happen. The database will be okay. You don't have crap data in the database. Okay. So that's a nice insurance. So I think we're going to do that. So what we can do, we can define this here. So that's standard Hibernate stuff. So we can add a unique constraint to this table because we can add multiple. So this array, so we add one unique constraint, and yeah, let's give it a name like user ID, list name, movie ID, unique. Speaking names. Then you have the column names, which is user ID name and movie. haven't assigned the data source to IntelliJ, so it cannot look in the database. So we have this now. If you remember from last time, we configured the database generation to only update.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what we did is in dev mode, which we are using locally to develop, we configured Quarkus or Hibernate to only update the database schema. So stuff like adding a column would work, but only if it's not breaking change. For example, if you say the column must not be null, so it must not be empty, the column, but you also don't provide a default value.
Yeah.
Then you have an issue if you already have some rows in the database, because what should it use for these? You don't define a default and you say it must not be null, so this wouldn't work. So in our case, it also won't work because we already have a conflict. So the easy way is we drop the database. And we started...
You drop the database, what does that mean?
I just deleted it.
Oh, okay.
So in SQL, you drop a table, meaning delete the table.
Okay.
That's why you say drop the database. Or that's why I said.
Okay, so this is not a common phrase.
I have no idea, actually.
Okay. Chat, tell us, is this a common phrase to drop a database, meaning to delete it?
I mean, in fact, I only dropped the table, so then it would be correct again. Because I didn't delete up here, so only here. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah,
you see,
cares?
we have the entity is created again. Where's the entity? Here. We again have our ID list, which is the primary key. We have the list name, movie ID, and user ID. And now we have a new index here. This index is our user ID, list name, movie ID, unique index. And you see it's over the columns user ID, list name, movie ID, and it's a unique index. Yes.
Yes. Oh, Scoot just mentioned that you also can drop the database, but that would drop all the tables.
Yeah, sure.
In your database. Yeah, sure. Thank you for that info, Scoot.
Okay, so now we have this unique constraint, and if we try to add something again, one time it works. Let's have a look. We have Stefan's new favorite, but a second time it doesn't. So it complains about you. Now we have the transaction failed, and we got a rollback. It could not commit the transaction because blah, blah, blah. Duplicate key value violates unique constraint.
How did you manage to see that fast? There's so much text.
I have no idea. Probably my brain scanned for something that has no dots inside, which looks like these packages or something.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea, I just saw it.
You just saw it. Okay.
But it could also happen that I sit here 5 minutes looking for this. It also happens.
Okay.
Probably I would have switched to this view. Here in the log you see it much better.
Yeah, you guys don't see it. Now you do.
Ah, because of us.
I'm blocking.
Yeah. So the error gave it away, yeah, a bit. So now in the database, we don't have the duplicate. So as I said, this is very important. This ensures we don't have false data or wrong data in the database.
Okay.
So now we should probably handle this a bit better because we don't want the error 500. This is not a problem of the server that you enter wrong data twice. So
why not? Please elaborate.
Yeah. So what we could do, what we want to do is we want to insert this. The app wants to make sure, in this case, that this movie is added to your list. So if it's already there, I mean, it's fine. It's like with the delete. There's no reason to complain about it. It's also fine. So we just should not crash.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So what we could do is we could check this here. So
check the fact that we already added it, or
yes.
Yes. Okay.
So what we need is something like a this movie in list, in users list, user ID list name, movie ID. We want a boolean, and we can check what is. Does it have an exists? Let me check what Panache offers here. Useful functions. Persist is persist, notice checks only the. Is it? Yeah, you can only pass in an entity and then it checks if the ID of the entity is already there. That's not what we want. Find by ID, find by the optional count. So we could count. Yeah, then probably count.
Count what?
We count how many entries we find.
Okay.
So movie ID is equal to parameter 3, movie ID, number of movies, and if the number of movies is bigger than 0, then we return true. So then we have this movie in the database.
Oh, okay, now I get it. Yeah.
So basically we just looked, we told the database, please count how many you find for this, matching this query.
Yeah.
And the query is, does it have the user ID for the user that we pass in? Does it have the list name that we want? And does it have the movie ID that we want? So there can only be one at most because of the unique constraint. And if there is one, then we know.
Then we know. Okay, gotcha. I really did understand that. I'm so proud of myself.
No, yeah, we're gonna teach you a bit of it.
Yeah, I'm learning.
So,
by the way, Screw told you that you have metric vision because you saw that error beforehand.
Ah,
yeah, I like that. So
yeah.
You're Neo. Okay, you're the one. He's the one. He is.
Don't tell them. The machines.
But you are.
The machines are listening.
Yeah, they know.
Not good. So what I did here is now I first check if is the movie in user list already. If it's not in the user list already, then we persist it. Otherwise, we do nothing. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
So let's try again. Quark is recompiling. Okay, so it's okay. We can press it 100 times. And we only have
was just 3 times, but okay.
1 time here.
100 times.
1, 2.
Don't
3,
no stop,
4.
please. Or chat, should he press the button 100 times, please?
Please don't make me do that. I will do it, but please don't.
Please do. Can't we have a...
I can also write a loop.
to press this send button 100 times?
Probably you can even automate it with Postman. Or I could call copy paste the call here 100 times and then just run it as a collection.
Okay, I see. This is what happens when you
I think I can even
just run it automatically. Yeah, that's what Moritz is saying.
Let me check something.
Now, challenge. How can we press that button 100 times? Go.
Yeah, I will copy it in here. Then I think I can run this. What? I thought you can run this in only. You can. Where's the run stuff?
The run
collection.
stuff. That's
run collection. So now we can say we only want this one up here to run 100 times. Boom!
Love that. And there we go.
It's fun. Okay, get rid of this again. Yes. Okay.
Very good, thank you.
So now we also made sure that we don't edit multiple times. Also, again, we made sure that the client does not get an error just because the connection dropped or because he retried. Also, so yeah, that's very nice. What's there else? What else is there to do? Do we even have time to start something new? Or should we switch over to questions?
Yeah, we have, well, if we stick to the 1 hour format, which we didn't in the last streams, then we would have 4 minutes for questions. Otherwise, do you have something to start and could finish that in, I say, 15 or
Yeah,
20
we could
minutes?
do something easy.
Something easy. That's for me. Thank you.
So one thing the client might be doing a lot is getting, for example, a movie by ID.
Okay.
So, for example, if the user clicks on a movie in the movie list, then the client will do movie by ID to get the full-blown details. And these details don't change very often.
Yeah.
So we could tell the client that he is allowed to cache this for a couple of minutes or hours or days or something. You always have to be a bit careful about this because if you have told the client to cache it, then he will.
He will, sure.
Yeah, and if you told him to cache something and it was wrong data, then you will have to wait until the caching is over.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe deploy some crazy hotfix client or so that can drop the cache again, but don't want to get into this. So just be aware, if you set long caching durations, then yeah, it will take a long time until updates make it through.
Yeah.
Also, if you mess something up. So what is one of the easiest things to do is you can add a cache header to the response, which basically tells the client you are allowed to cache this for this period of time. And this is very easily done with Quarkus. You can just add this cache annotation. Please note there are 2. There's a Hibernate one and the rest easy one. You want the rest easy one.
Why?
Because we are in rest easy and not in Hibernate here. Is the endpoint.
I should have known that, right? Yeah, I should have known that while watching all our streams.
Didn't you listen?
Shane, no, I do listen, but I do not understand.
That's also a good answer. So you see here this cache annotation, it has quite a lot of properties. If you want to know all about it, I guess you can search the cache header.
By the way, just
cache control.
What would happen if I would have used the other cache, the not rest easy one?
Nothing or an exception.
Okay.
Not what we want.
Okay. So nothing bad.
I don't think. Either with the first test it crashes already, or nothing happens.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the cache control documentation. You can see what all these different properties mean. You can even say this is not
a
allowed
German
to
word,
cache.
Cachebarkeit? Really?
Oh, Let's go to the English version.
Cashbarkeit.
Yeah, cashback.
That's right. Okay.
So there's also stuff like no cache. Where was it? The English one is bigger.
That's unusual, isn't it?
No, it isn't.
It isn't.
Yeah, no cache. So you could say this. You must never cache.
You must have. Okay.
Yeah. So what we can do is we can add some. I think the max age is in seconds. Max age and
In
seconds.
seconds. Yeah.
So what we can do is something like, let's make it 10 minutes. This would be something like that.
What's a good number there? Just in general?
It depends on the data.
Okay.
How
In
often
this
you want
case?
to update the data. In this case, we can actually have a look at what the movie DB says. If you do get movie by ID, you can have a look at the headers. And there's a cache control, and it says max age is this. And I'm not good enough in calculating in my head.
What?
So
That's
480
overwhelming.
minutes, it's 8 hours.
Okay. So a normal
Yeah.
working day,
So you would get an update 3 times a day.
3 times a day. Yeah.
So if they say their data is valid that long, it would be okay for us. I mean, to also do that. But you have to consider one thing. We query their data only if the user asks us to do.
Yeah.
So if the user waits 8 hours until he asks us again, and maybe we also wait 8 hours because they said it's valid for 8 hours, then you might get like 16 hours of delay on the client. Or almost 16 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So just have to consider this. What I also noticed is when you do this get movie by ID here, it is very fast for the second call. Let's get some new movie. So now you saw here we have 190 milliseconds, which the call took. I hope you can see this. The call took 190 milliseconds here. And yeah, this is not super fast, but if we do it a second time, we have 11 milliseconds.
Okay.
And that's like close to the ping that I probably have.
Yeah.
And that is because you can actually see it here in the response. Where is it? CloudFront. It says that it was a hit from CloudFront. Let's check what happens if we use a different ID. So now it was even long. Oh, that was my service.
What happened?
I guess I have started some changes and not finished them yet. So this was again this, and now we don't have the Xcache header. Doch, we missed from CloudFront. So CloudFront didn't have this in the cache. But if we query it again, it was a hit from CloudFront. And yeah, we get a very fast response. So that's nice that they have very good caching. So we don't need to care so much about caching. But anyways, we can also add like, they also have this max age so that the client knows he can cache it or doesn't have to ask for it again for the next 8 hours. So we can do the same. Yeah, we need to say max age. But maybe, so this is an hour, maybe let's go 2 hours. And let's try get movie by ID. So we have the header, and now we also have the max age here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that you can use to incorporate client caching. The good thing, this can especially be used for example, images.
Yeah.
If you set this for images, then the client uses a caching library for the stuff, for the HTTP calls, then they just don't ask you for the image again. And even if you have like a provider, like they have a caching provider in front of your API, they don't have to call them, and because you will be billed on the amount of calls they have to cache for you. And so you want to use this just to tell the client, hey, it will not change in the next 8 hours. Don't bother me.
Probably never change.
Yeah, well,
in this case, from a database, from movie posters?
Well, it depends if they made an error.
Okay, yeah, true.
Then it could be interesting.
Yeah.
What you could also do is you
That's
can...
right. Another edge case.
You can also manually set this caching header. Now here in the annotation, we have it fixed for this period. But you could also return a response and manually set a header. And then you could make this configurable. You could say, if a database entry is very new for your movies database.
Yeah.
And so it is more likely that you have some more changes. You set a lower time for the caching.
That makes sense.
And if the database entry is a month old, then it will probably never change again.
Yeah.
And so this way you could incorporate the long caching to reduce the number of hits you have to serve, and combine it with the flexibility of basically having a short caching time that you can still update your data.
Yeah.
So this could be a nice mixed strategy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more questions from the chat?
So guys, come on. Boys and girls. You got the ultimate chance to ask Andreas everything you ever wanted him to ask.
Oh, I saw something.
You did.
Quarkus 274.
Now available. Oh.
Oh, 272.
Oh, look at Andreas.
No.
Being very...
No. We cannot have this. Let's upgrade.
So that's what's getting you excited, yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I already read the release notes.
Okay. So is there happening something new, something exciting?
Not so big. Only some small bug fixes.
Okay.
One bug fix was interesting. Actually, a colleague had run into this issue, and I didn't even know there was a bug ticket open for it. But then noticed that it's that it was closed with 274, and it was that when you call something with the REST client, like we do to call the movies API, and you mess up your URL here. If it's something wrong, then it did hang for an infinite amount of time.
Okay.
And never respond. And they fixed this now.
They fixed that now.
Yeah, in 274.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's up next?
What's up next? I think Tommy would be next. Or what's up next with Andreas?
I guess both.
Oh.
So Tommy is next on
Wednesday. When I'm not mistaken. And what's up next?
From our side, let's see a bit.
Let's.
Probably the client will incorporate a bit more the API, use it, and then they will have complaints and wishes. So we will look into that. Also, OAuth is something I have in mind. Probably the client, we need to find out how we do Apple OAuth. Because we want to have, at the moment we send the user. This is not very secure.
No, it's not. Even I know that.
And not very, also abuse safe. We want to get authentication with Apple ID. and yeah, need to look into that a bit, prepare a bit, because I read that Apple ID is kind of OAuth capable, but not completely compliant to the standard.
All right, is it?
Yeah, it's like an Apple way of doing it. So I hope it just works with the Quarkus stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we will test that before it's getting too embarrassing here in the live stream.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Also, deployment in Docker, yes, that's also definitely on the to-do list. First, creating a Docker container. There's a very nice way with Quarkus, also a very quick way where you don't even need a Docker.
Okay.
Which is awesome for your CI pipelines. Because if you need Docker to build your Docker image, then you have to do stuff like Docker in Docker. And that's usually, yeah, it's not so nice. It brings some problems with it, and it's also slower. We can do it quicker.
Okay.
And also deployment. In the end, I want to deploy this with probably Helm in the Kubernetes cluster. Yeah, but it's a way to go there. Helm itself has a lot of features, a bit to get a head around. Kubernetes itself is also a big topic. So we have a lot to cover in the future, but no roadmap yet.
That's nice to hear. Moritz is also excited. He says, nice, awesome. Thanks for the follow, Heiligabend Engel.
Oh, cool.
Always nice to have more people around here.
Nice.
Okay, so any more questions, anyone? You're welcome, Moritz. Thank you for joining, for attending.
Asking and having fun.
So on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, there's another stream with Tomislav. And I probably think that Jonas or Timo are going to be back.
Yeah.
So I hope.
You won't have to do it again?
No.
When will we see you again?
It was fun, but actually I can't follow you.
Yeah,
this is
really
way too complicated for me.
We really have to think about Stefan getting started.
Yeah, maybe we do something like that in the future. But I think we have many things on our table, like Christian, when he's going to come back to finish the lamp, and he has more ideas, Tommy's project, so we won't stream every day, but we could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.